I trust you had hot chocolate with our last meeting with the snowstorm. It was a nasty day, that whole 24 hours.
Good call. Yep.
Yeah. So we will do roll call. We'll start with Sue Polidoro, please.
Here.
Michael Griffin,
Present.
Steve Buzzell, present.
Celeste Brooks, present.
Susan Sterry, present,
Duncan McCallum, present.
and we have
The vice president.
present. Thank you. Did you say John's on there, John Chagnon?
Yes.
Okay, we'll wait until afterwards. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes
Yes.
online and everything?
Yep.
Anybody like to make any changes or changes, I guess would be it.
I know I sound like the teacher I am, but there's a word that's written as intent when it's supposed to be intend with a D.
We can fix that in the final.
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't find any fault with anything.
Good.
Not that that's a fault. If she's not hearing us, then that's understandable.
Exactly.
Is autocorrect an autocorrect issue?
Thank you, Eva.
Okay.
All right.
Eh,
So
Can I get a motion to,
I move that we accept the minutes with the corrections before mentioned.
and can I get someone to second it,
I'll
please?
second.
Thank you, Eva. All right, it's been a while since I've done this.
so all in favor?
Oh, all in favor, sorry. Yeah.
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
usually someone reminds me. I'm just curious if John, are you there? Is he, if you want to, okay. He may want to listen to the whole thing, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening. Yep.
I don't know, what, are you here to talk about the cemetery and your platform that you have?
I didn't see it was on your agenda, so no, I'm just here to listen. A couple of things on your agenda are interesting to me. The visitor etiquette and the markers.
Oh, that's great, that's fine, I just didn't, this is probably going to be a long one, so I didn't, if you had something that you wanted to, share specifically, I would put you up front so we could get it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I'm willing to listening in, and we have similar concerns about etiquette, and so we're all trying to do better, and I appreciate all you guys are doing. So I'm going to listen and learn.
All right, thank you, John. All right, so now I get to turn this over to Suzanne, and we're reviewing, the new,
Yep. I'll just do a little summary.
yeah.
So earlier this year, the Portsmouth City Council adopted a new policy with regard to volunteers, i.e. those who sit on our various boards. And what you will find now, if you go on the city clerk's website under boards and commissions, there is now a new little volunteer handbook. And in addition, there are two policies referenced that kind of flow out of this. Not surprisingly, a non-discrimination policy, and also an acceptable use policy, i.e. what to do or not do with any electronic devices you might have been given by the City of Portsmouth, or any emails, if you have an email address like some of the city councilors do. And so this is a resource, and that's its intent primarily, is to be a resource for our volunteers to kind of give a little bit of the lay of the land of how to be a good committee member. So we are asking all of the, or requiring really, all of those that are newly appointed or reappointed to their boards and committees as they come up for renewal, they're going to need to review this and sign off on it. We do this electronically. We have a system, we call it's Power DMS, and it's the same system that the city employees use when we have to sign off on things like our acceptable use policy and our non-harassment policy. And you get an email, you click on it, walks you through, you can print it if you want, or save the paper and don't print it, or download it and save a copy if you'd like. and then there's an electronic sign off. And so we wanted to just let you know that this is, when you come up for reappointment, that this is going to be part of the process. And for those that are interested or willing, because it is intended to be a resource, and we are getting comments back because we're learning, oh, maybe we should have covered this, or we could have said something better. We're taking those comments and they'll go back to the governance committee with comments. So that's why we want to get it out there, that this is there. And again, there's a full copy on the city clerk's website. And so it covers, I'll just run through some of the things it covers, your relationship, the board's relationship to the city council, how, you have a mission, each board has a mission, or they may have a statutory duty, and kind of beginning to understand what your role is within that committee. A little sample on simple motions, just to help particularly people who've never sat on a committee before to understand, and, the relationship with city staff, how to work with your board chair to get items on the agenda that you might be interested in. So it's very kind of basic, the caution about social media. Be careful how you represent yourself and whether you accidentally create a quorum somewhere electronically, if you're all on the same sort of group and all commenting on the same thing. We don't want that. So it kind of explains some of those bits and pieces that we've all talked about here, and most of you now are pretty experienced. But it was meant to be, and is meant to be, a resource to help people that are particularly new to this type of work. And like I said, open to feedback, because we're going to feed comments we get back to the governance committee. And if anyone wants to, do it before you have to, let me know. We push it out by email, and we'd be glad to put your name on the list, and you'll already be done. But it's not required of you at this time, but it would be if you get reappointed. So that's kind of, I'll leave it briefly like that. And again, you can read the whole thing on the city's clerk's website. So that's my little skinny. Yeah.
I have a question, because I downloaded all of these. Like this one is volunteer training and standard of conduct. Are those all online too, that people can just, they're there for their information?
Yes, so if you go to the city clerk's webpage, the 4 that are most applicable to volunteers are right there now.
Okay.
We just updated the website like a week ago,
Yeah.
a week and a half ago. I could probably pull it up on this.
Well, I had downloaded at the beginning, so there is one form of training and standards of conduct and ethics. It's a 3 or 4 page, but that's up there too.
That's the city council policy,
Okay.
which talks about how they
City
want a
council.
handbook for volunteers and how we hope to do training. And a lot will depend on the nature of the committee, because some committees need different training. Sometimes that training is actually provided by third parties, like the New Hampshire Municipal Association. So it's a
Right. And then,
policy of the city council.
I just
kind
have
of
the link. I'm
informs
just
it.
sending the link around to everyone now, or Jonah.
Yep.
Okay.
I can.
I just did it.
Yep. Oh, good.
thank
Okay.
you.
I was looking for it. I want
Yeah.
to make sure I found it.
Yeah.
So.
And then another one that's really good, in the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy. That's also online. And the other one, I downloaded, this took place, 3 or 4 months ago that
Yeah,
they went
it
up?
was a process to,
Yeah,
yep.
that they went up. And then acceptable use policy, city council and board members. And it's another guideline to how volunteers and members and everybody actually should behave at various, when you're dealing with the city, any place, but this is the city's note of it, so. Yes.
Question. So,
Yeah.
so if we're on this, remember how I signed another paper to allow me to reset the stones? Are all our forms going to be on there too? Does that cover people volunteering and helping out, doing things like that, or is it separate?
This is for everybody in the whole city, so our volunteer forms will stay with us. which at the beginning of spring, when we start, or you start doing more, Suzanne designed the new policy, the volunteer, so once you sign it, you don't have to sign it again.
Okay.
Saying that, we know you're trained and you're not going to sue the city if you, whatever. So that will stay. Yeah, because you don't need a volunteer form for other activities in the city, so that would just be.
We do have other, we use that same kind of similar form when we have other groups that come in and volunteer to do different things.
Right.
So we've used.
Cleanups or whatever. Like
Exactly, or, when the kids used to come in, they would paint the storm grates.
Oh, yeah.
To say, hey, this leads to fresh water, don't put nasty stuff down the storm sewer. Yeah, they usually had a little fish on it or something. So those types of volunteer activities, there's usually a form that gets filled out and, who's going to be supervising them and.
No, and that's a good question, because we do have some outdoor projects coming up.
Yep.
And also, I found online, this is really great, it's an organizational chart. So anybody.
It's actually in the back of the policy book.
Oh, is that where it is now? It wasn't?
Yeah,
Oh.
you've got the older version, but
Yeah.
it's all together, just as a way to help educate our volunteers. So,
No, and I think that's really great, because it lets everybody know a clearer vision of how the organization works and who talks to who, so.
yeah. We've been updating the boards and commission pages. We've trying to be a little better about making sure that mission statements stay updated and current, and so we're, everything takes a little work, but we're trying to make it a little easier for people to know what opportunities are out there to participate in government.
A quick question, how long does it, I don't know if you all know that the city changed their email and it's .gov now. How long will they automatically switch, forward it with knowing?
Yes, so the city has moved to as Sue said, a .gov domain.
Right.
So my email has changed to, smwoodland@portsmouthnh.gov, along with all the other city staff, Corin, et cetera. There is a period of time where it'll probably be at least a couple of months that will continue to forward sort of seamlessly emails to the old address.
Right.
And then we're going to keep an eye on it. How fast are people moving over subscriptions? So we don't have a hard and firm date where we're going to cut that off. We're going to actually monitor how the traffic is coming in and, see where we need to beef up our messaging or updating, like I said, our different subscriptions.
Yeah, and plus, now you'll know, so if you, because I know some of you email, not just Suzanne, but other people, and just, if it doesn't go through, just remember, it's .gov now, so. Next on the agenda is the visitor etiquette. So did Barbara send you extra copies of that too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so if anyone else needs an extra copy. Do you need an extra copy, Sue?
No, I have a copy here.
I just walked around with extra copies.
Okay.
Is this something we're still editing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Dee was good enough to, she's not there, was good enough to write up the original one, and then Suzanne went over it for all the legal reasons and how we can say things and so on and so forth. So it's additional markers. This is etiquette. So I don't know if we
This
want
is a
to.
draft, so.
Yeah. How have you all, or should we just go over it right now, line by line, and then you guys?
I have some notes on things, so.
Okay, all right. So visitor etiquette for the City of Portsmouth Historic Cemeteries. The following visitor etiquette applies to Cotton, Elmwood, Hall, North Pleasant, Point of Graves, Union, and Whidden. Is Whidden are we including the one up on Peverly Hill Road? I
I
did-
did not change the list.
Okay.
Figured that was maybe for discussion, but
Yeah, we
consider that
can,
discussion.
we
Yeah.
can take that off for
Okay.
now.
Came that way and I was, yeah.
Just to update you, there are 3 wooden cemeteries, family burial grounds, and up on Peverly Hill Road, right past where the new apartment or condo complexes are, where the orange snow fencing is another wooden. And I did get it confirmed from Jamie at independent archaeologist, that there are 3 remains up there, and she has their names. She verbally spoke to, or had a one-on-one with the lady that lived there before she moved. So, but that's something down the line, even if we just clean trees and put a little memorial sign there or what have you. So we'll leave that off for now.
Do we need to list all of them? Can we say just with the top line, serve it? Will people, do we need to know Cotton Elmwood, or is that to make sure that the South Cemetery, which has kind of some of your own unique rules, would that, is that why we spell out the individual names?
Well, we have a lot of cemeteries in town, too, that aren't ours, like the Jewish Cemetery,
wanna speak for
Calvary,
Okay.
and Sagamore and Proprietors, which I'm sure, you don't have, you just have the dogs not walking posted right now
Different
at
thing.
yours.
No, but-
So I think this is our requirement, so I'm deferring to you. I would think,
These were kept intentionally soft, meaning there's no threat written
Right.
down in here like we're going to fine you. This is intentionally trying to encourage the good behavior rather than, lean on it because we already have the stronger language with regard to the dogs.
right,
So that was my thought, to keep it more, here's what we would hope for.
right.
Because some of these things, if you try to describe it, in terms of entertainment items, okay, like, so for some of us, reading a book might be an entertainment item. So that's why I didn't set this up to be, oh, you're going to get fined. This is
Right.
really an encouragement to the type of behavior that you would like to see, if particularly,
Right.
respectful. So I could see some people having differences of view in terms of what would constitute entertainment. So,
Yeah, so that,
but that's why I took it as kind of etiquette as opposed to,
right.
a heavy hand.
And we're not having the same kind of issue with beer cans and people hanging out and sleeping down, so far, down on the back of Union, since we've done a lot of cleaning up down there. And it's only going to become more visible as time goes on when the Greenway goes through. So I guess before we start all of this, we never did talk about whether we were going to post signs with this type of information on it, or how we were going to get it out. So keeping that in mind when we read these, thinking ahead if we want to post them, or how we're going to let the world know this is what we would ask you to do in any of our historic cemeteries. So take only photos, leave only footprints. Anybody feel free to object or... And Steve, did we answer your question, or?
You guys thought about it, and this is your stand, I'm fine with that,
It's, like I said, this is a new
Yeah.
evolution. We haven't really talked about this before, so happy to keep talking about it. I was responding to the request of the committee.
So this would include etching, which
That's what I was going to add on B, see if they can add etching on.
Do not touch memorials or artifacts without permission.
What is an example of an artifact?
Like things that people have left, or are you putting that under memorials?
Yeah, I wish Dee was here because she was part of doing this. She took a lot of ideas from other cemeteries in the area, so someone had that. And I would assume it would be like at the Griffins, well, not even that. Obviously, in our historic ones, we don't get a lot of flowers and other little mementos where the more current ones, you can see all kinds of mementos at different headstones. We have one up in Cotton, though, that has a tree that's always decorated and all kinds of little mementos on the ground. So, yeah, we wouldn't want anybody just to come in there and grab those and walk off, not intentionally anyway. So I'm assuming that's what that's what we would want it to mean.
I would expect that Dee would be okay getting this input because
Oh, yeah.
she had just, kind of surveyed and tried to put some ideas together based on what she saw and was recommended by, I think, the state of New Hampshire actually has a sample. And then she looked at a couple other places. So that's why none of this is fixed and is good for conversation. And if you think you're going to want to suggest to the city manager that we actually create a sign to put out there, then actually fewer words is generally better.
Right.
Because you don't want too much signage out there that gets distracting. So yeah, I'd say this is a good place to have the conversation of what do we think would be effective or useful. And we could also put it on the city website, so.
Is artifacts the right word then? Do we want to do like memorials or mementos? Because mementos might cover flowers and tokens.
I like mementos.
Or is it part of the memorial? We can argue with that it falls under that
Well-
definition. So,
Artifacts implies an older thing,
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of because I was going to say, oh, maybe, like touching the obelisk and things like that. I mean, you can break a headstone theoretically, but that's not an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, and this, when you say artifacts, it kind of implies like don't touch the headstones or anything in the cemetery. Like that's old. An artifact is an old thing. That's, I think, with the connotation of that.
so mementos would work then, as I said.
Or you could put do not touch memorials, artifacts, or mementos, and then you covered it.
Yeah.
Without
And
permission.
Do we need the without permission? Or, is that an implied thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
agree.
and it does suggest that you could go to someone who would have authority to grant permission, because certainly with authority, you can do certain things as,
But
Yeah.
that if
Yeah.
you're at that level of going to, you would already know that it's okay because you've talked to
The-
the person.
And I don't, it doesn't make any difference one way or the other for me, but without permission might give someone else who's not used to being in cemeteries the idea, make them stop and think, this isn't just here for free or whatever for you to take
Or
because
what
you
about
like it.
you do not touch or remove memorials or mementos?
Yeah, that works. But does anybody else?
About rubbings.
No.
no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't seen it done as it was once, a very popular educational tool.
There's actually an RSA that says you can't.
Really?
I thought
Unless you
New
get
Hampshire was
certain
kind of
permission.
vague on it.
Yeah.
I thought
Oh, well, can't talk over each other. Did you have, what did you?
Oh, I just was surprised at that.
I thought the state of New Hampshire was kind of vague on allowing, whether it's allowed or not. It's not disallowed, but it's not encouraged.
Well, it's written under an RSA, and so I would rather look at it as nobody's going to get fined or anything like that. They just don't encourage it. And again, and I double checked on this a while ago, that people were doing that and making copies and selling them. So whoever brought it before the state legislature just didn't think it was right that, their grandfather's beautiful
Someone's
headstone laying on sitting on someone's wall, and also someone making profit off of it. So that was part of the reason. And I don't know if any headstones ever got broken or damaged or anything like that. You can do it. So if we did want to do a fundraising, or like Strawberry Bank does a summer camp, they technically could, if they checked with the city, could go over and do a little class and show the kids and what have you.
So here's the statute.
Oh,
I
thank you.
pulled it up, so you
Thank-
talked long enough.
Yeah.
No person shall make gravestone rubbings in any municipal cemetery or burial ground without first obtaining the written permission of the town, selectman, or the mayor of a city or designee. Before granting such permission, the selectman or mayor will ascertain to the best of their ability that the person making the request knows the proper precautions to be taken and the proper materials to be used for this activity. The town selectman or city mayor or their designee shall notify the cemetery trustees of the request and its disposition. Any person who violates the provisions of this section shall be guilty of a misdemeanor.
Wow.
So there we go. That's
When was that-
RSA
when was that
28922.
When was that adopted?
It says 1994. That
Yeah,
sounds
that
about right.
sounds about right.
I remember when I was young, it was done, and by
Yes.
the time I got old, it was not.
That explains why. And it's
So-
well written.
That's why the without permission is kind of nice to still leave in that language. It implies that there is an opportunity under the right circumstances to touch, to.
Rearrange or,
Yeah.
anything. All right.
And I'll take these notes and I'll provide a cleaner copy for your next meeting. But right now, I've got do not touch or remove memorials, mementos, or artifacts without permission.
That works.
At least until you
Everybody-
mock it up and see when you finish everything.
Right. So we're in number C, do not bring alcohol, weapons, or entertainment items into cemeteries.
What do you mean by entertainment items? It's like
I have no
amplified
idea.
music or?
Yeah, I think that's what was probably intended in some of the other versions, so
Yeah, I mean, boom boxes used to be a really big thing in cemeteries. Take a boom box, go down and have a few beers and things like that.
I think you really need to qualify entertainment because, like you were saying, books, a lot of people, books, newspapers, even cameras, like you're going down there with a camera as something you do for fun, that's saying don't do that. You can't bring a book and sit there under a tree and read it. I think you need to qualify it with auditory entertainment or, speakers.
Music or something.
Yes, speakers and that
maybe
sort of thing.
just strike that entirely, and as you go through, see whether if noise is the issue, then maybe it's addressed differently rather than trying to describe what is an entertainment. So, like I said, I tried not to tweak too much from what, Dee first found. So I think these are good conversations to have.
And what I might add to it is, you don't want kids in there playing, throwing a football, wiffle ball or what have you. I don't know if that's considered entertainment or not. So that's just another piece that we might think about.
May I get a thought?
Oh, sure.
Oh, thank you. Well, when I read them over many weeks ago when they first came, I was struck by the do not, do not, do not, do not. And it made me wonder, especially in terms of being succinct, if we could possibly say something like, please refrain from the following behaviors which can damage our headstones, memorials, and artifacts, including blah, blah, blah. In other words, you could combine them to be succinct on especially if you were going to post them. If you have just do not, do not, do not, do not, I think after a while people are just going to ignore it. And as someone said so well before, we may not want to have too long a list. I just see a place where you could rephrase it a little bit and combine the points that you're trying to make.
That's a really good thought, Eva. Anybody else have some feelings about that? I tend to agree with the do not, and I really like the idea of combining the top, some sort of top phrase that covers some of it, and then just the others like alcohol, weapons.
They are really worthy things, like you wouldn't think about idling your car, but it's true. It does. It could, if everybody did it, it would create damage, so it should be said. The other thing, and I'll be quiet after this, is the very last, well, maybe not. The very last one talks about if you see, behavior, call the local authorities. So, is it proper to put a contact number there? Because if somebody does see behavior, they're more likely to, reportable behavior, they're more likely to do it if you give them a contact to call. But then when I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe people will just call it and create havoc. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. You can invite people to call, but you'll get a better response if you tell them where or give them a number. But I think there's risk involved in that.
I guess how often are people seeing suspicious activity, and how many people don't have a smartphone at this point? I think it's probably a pretty small number of people don't have a smartphone at this point to just
Yeah, you're right.
Google the non-emergency line for the police or the city, and how much suspicious activity are people seeing in there that it's a big enough concern that we need to include a phone number.
I agree. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I wouldn't do
No,
that.
thank you. You have a good idea, Michael.
The mischievous activities in my lifetime are significantly less than what they used to be. Significantly.
Because of the phones.
You read my mind. I think that's the answer. Where the kids are going to raise hell and get in trouble and drink beer. Used to be the cemeteries, and doesn't appear to be the case now. But there's a good guidelines to help us.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Especially we do get quite a few out-of-town and international visitors to our cemeteries, so, and the rest of the world doesnll look the same way at cemeteries as we might here too, so, well, this is good. Anybody else have any comment? We're sort of jumping around a little bit, so.
A4 and C,
No,
can we
that's my
delete?
fault. I'm sorry.
No, we were before, so don't worry about it. Yeah, so we were going to just let that sit for now and see what comes down the line. Show respect for the dead.
The one above there, can we delete the last two words? Is it redundant? If you're going into the cemeteries, don't do it in the cemeteries.
Do not bring alcohol, weapons, or entertainment items. Yeah, we can do it.
I think with just everything after weapons, right? I mean,
So I'm kind of combining thoughts here, because I did kind of like the please refrain from and a couple of bullets. So
Yeah.
please refrain from touching memorials, mementos, or artifacts without permission, using alcohol or deploying weapons, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, after a couple of the, hey, please refrain from, maybe you close with the, please show respect, please enjoy.
Yeah.
The take photos, kind of putting the positive.
On C, you can say
I don't know, it's a thought.
alcohol, weapons, or entertainment are not allowed in the cemeteries. And instead of saying do not, you can just say not allowed.
Well, I think what Suzanne just said was that long sentence before, and then please refrain from bringing alcohol and weapons into the cemeteries. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's hard because we're rewording quite a
It's
bit.
okay, because
Yeah.
I'll take what I've got here, and I might be able to read it and show it, and then we can always circulate it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
If such an incident occurred, would it be, allow the law enforcement people to press charges under these guidelines?
These are not meant to be violations. As
Yeah.
presently written, we'd have to put them into an ordinance. However, my thought is we do soft first. The dogs we've got covered because we already have ordinances related to keeping your dog on a leash, and it's just a question of where we allow off-leash. And then see how things go, and then if there are pieces that we think we need to put in an ordinance, that could be a recommendation coming up from the cemetery committee to the city council. My thought is, see if the first, impetus
Yeah.
works before creating another ordinance. Now, obviously, if someone were doing something with a weapon, that they should
That's
not
covered.
be doing, regardless of in or out of the cemetery,
Yeah.
then there's already a statute for that, or using alcohol in a way that they're not allowed to use alcohol if they're 18 rather than 21. So there's already going to be a criminal mechanism to handle that.
Right.
Same thing with vandalism, whether it's inside or outside the cemetery, there are already statutes that cover that, so.
Yeah.
I think this is the encouragement, if I show you, this would be the proper behavior.
Yeah. Stop and think about it
Yeah,
before you.
Exactly, we'll try that first, and.
All right, so D is show respect for the dead. I don't know how anybody else feels about that line.
I think that when you have that and then you do E, it seems very redundant, like, show respect for the dead
Everything after
also.
and.
Show respect, make your kids show respect for the dead. Can you recombine that or just omit D because it's an implied etiquette?
Well, you could say show respect for the dead by refraining from the following behaviors.
That's true.
Well, that could be a closing statement, too.
You could include it in a closing thank you in the statement. Like, with thanks, for showing the respect from the dead, city.
And that's a good idea. That's a nice way to end, for sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
So back to E, can we delete everything after and?
What if we change it to supervise your children at all times and then just,
Perfect.
yeah. I think if, for F and G, we could combine those, since we already have a sign for pets, and we want to avoid the do not, if we change it to dispose of all litter, pet waste, and cigarette butts in the appropriate receptacles,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Hold on, dispose of,
all
yep.
pet waste, litter, and cigarette butts in appropriate receptacles. So you can,
Yep.
put them in whatever order, but that gets rid of the do not and crosses off another letter, so you don't have to have as many bullet points.
One of my pet peeves
So
is seeing dogs running around the cemetery and urinating on the headstones. And I don't think people are aware of what that urine does to the headstones. And I would like something, keep your pets under control, away from the monuments, and clean up after them. I mean, that is what I'd like to see, but it's,
What's the exact verbiage on the pet sign that's already in place?
I don't know. I can't.
Because that could be,
Mostly on, as I recall, it's mostly on leash and
Pick up the
pick up the
waste.
waste. That's my recollection.
Yeah. But you're right, I never thought about if they're under control, you can still let them pee all over the place. So, huh.
All right, let's think about how we add in there.
We could put a sign, pee-free area. Well, that might cover a couple of things, so. we don't have as many.
That one.
So we'll go down, just keep going down. So we've sort of looked at combining keep pets on leash. How did you word it? Did you include that? What was, Celeste, the last thing that you said?
Oh, about the pet waste?
Well, no, when we were getting
Oh.
down here, it was something about supervise your children,
Supervise your children at all times was just, and then stop.
oh, okay.
Supervise your children and pets to avoid damaging,
Headstones.
I don't know, just trying to get at the,
Maybe
Yeah.
the pet one just needs to be reworked.
Yeah, it doesn't have to, it could be something, keep your pets away from the headstones, but they wouldn't know why you'd want them to do that. So, I don't know, I think we have to think about how you,
let me play with it, I'm kind of throwing some words up here. I think if we go for please refrain from touching memorials, mementos, or artifacts without permission, allowing pets to urinate, defecate, I hate, I'm just like, it's kind of in the weeds here.
Yeah.
Relieve themselves.
relieve, yeah, that's a non-threatening, relieve themselves.
So you could do pets and children must be supervised at all times to not, and then, in that section, do not allow pets to relieve themselves on the stones.
Yeah, that's a
But to
pretty friendly.
roam freely?
Yeah,
No,
but that's, must be supervised at all times is implied, and you already have a sign that says keep pets on a leash. So do you need two signs that say keep pets on a leash?
No, we don't want two signs yet.
Yeah.
One
no,
has actual ordinance language and
For the city of
Yeah.
keeping your dog's leash, yeah.
And the other thing too is people who walk dogs, have them on a leash, still let their dogs defecate, so.
People are going to do it, are going to do it.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with it. They are going to do it, so. I haven't seen anybody lately this past year driving around to the cemeteries. I haven't seen any animals running free. And I usually, just out of curiosity, do a check and ride by Pointed Grave and down by Pleasant and do my little route. So I haven't ever seen any. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I don't see it. And some of you go by the cemeteries all the time, too. You'd see,
Most of the time.
Yeah.
you see free running
Most of the time.
up in his neck of the woods. Yeah.
South Cemetery. Yeah, you walk in there and they'll see me and they'll call the dogs over and,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah,
Yeah. Well, hopefully these,
2 out of 3 times.
Basically, yeah.
yeah, and you have signs, do not, no dogs allowed.
But still.
And that has not been really enforced, so
Yeah,
there are more than there have been in the past.
really.
But I still don't think it's a major issue for our property.
Yeah, and I think for our historic, yours is such an active cemetery up in that way because of the use of it, of all the roads and everything, where our historic cemeteries, you can't drive a car into any of them, and you have to walk into them, and they're not big. So, who knows, it might change as far as North and Union when the Greenway goes in. There might be some difference because we'll be right a part of that, those two cemeteries. So that means there'll be a lot more walkers and dog walkers. So, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes because the Greenway's not going in next year. So. So, all right, so let's get back.
So here's what I did while you guys were talking. Listening. So right now, if I've got all of the comments together to see if I can merge them into something. Leaving aside whether we do something more significant at the beginning, please refrain from touching memorials, mementos, or artifacts without permission. Or we could put touching or removing, I think was your added
Yeah.
language. Hold on. Touching or removing. Using alcohol or bringing weapons in this sacred space. Just
Oh,
kind
perfect,
of,
yeah.
giving it like, just trying to get you to be aware.
Yeah.
Idling your vehicle or traveling off the designated roadways or parking areas.
Good.
That only applies to cotton, but it doesn't hurt to leave it in there, yeah.
Disturbing wildlife or plants. And then you have a section that's please do. Please do supervise your children and pets. Do not allow pets to relieve themselves on the monuments that can damage them. Stay on designated walkways and footpaths. And enjoy this, or, whatever closing you want. I don't think you need to say obey posted signage, because
No,
I think that's kind of,
militant.
It's kind of redundant, I
yeah,
think.
exactly. Let's see. Oh, I didn't do the litter part. Hold on. Please refrain from, so under the please do, we could put, please do, put dispose of all pet waste, litter, and cigarette butts in appropriate receptacles.
Yep.
What do you think about that as a rough structure, and you guys could play with that next meeting?
I just have a question about what was formerly K. So there's a lot of areas that you would travel that don't have walkways and footpaths, and especially if you're going to look at the stones, there aren't walkways to every stone or footpaths to every stone, and that this is saying you can't go on the grass, basically. It's telling you keep off the grass, and I think we should just remove it entirely, unless you want to put,
I have to say, I'm kind of with you on that as someone who's spent a lot of time in South, and sometimes just wanting to be close and kind of look and.
I mean, even the idea of taking a book, sitting under a tree and enjoying the cemetery and the peacefulness, that's saying you can't do that.
Yeah, good point.
I concur.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement. Off that goes. Woo. There.
There's no path or trails over at the north. You gotta be very, very careful when you walk around.
Yep.
And the same way at Point of Graves and Pleasant Street and Hall, there are no formal. Does our, that list, can we still put, please, if you see something suspicious, please call? Because it would be really nice if people did see something, or we want to just leave it off because people just don't
My
mind
view of the matter is it should be obvious anyway.
Yep.
I think that anyone that would feel encouraged to call wouldn't need,
to be encouraged to call.
yeah,
That's
but maybe that's
They'd
just me.
probably whip out their phone, take a video. They'll post it somewhere.
I saw this
Yeah.
unofficial Portsmouth page. You guys all see this too.
I would just say, help us protect this cemetery for posterity. If you see something wrong, call the authorities.
I think the beginning of what you said, if we put it up towards the top, something that helps save this cemetery for future
generations.
or what have you, because it is historic. We kind of, again, would be planting a thought or an idea when they go in, as opposed to planting little seeds. And this is sort of what this list does, reminds people when they're going in, this,
So maybe the first sentence is something like, help us protect this historic cemetery. Please refrain from, and then we have our 4 bullet points, touching or removing memorials, mementos, or artifacts without permission, using alcohol or bringing weapons in this sacred space, idling your vehicle or traveling off the designated roadways or parking areas, or disturbing wildlife or plants. Please do supervise your children and pets with a do not allow, and dispose of all pet waste, litter, and cigarette butts properly. And then maybe the last bullet point under that is, reverence and enjoy this space.
Enjoy your
Thank you
time
for
here.
showing respect,
Yeah.
something like that.
Enjoy it. No. What does everybody think? It's good. Another second place.
Give you some to kind of, I'll circulate it and you guys can.
I think at this point, I am going to ask John if his comments, since he's a proprietor of Proprietor Cemetery, and he, will get some, when we post a sign up in Cotton, all of those cemeteries, or we may do a joint, post it outside as people are going in, which is appropriate for all cemeteries. John, do you have any comments you'd like to make or suggestions? You heard everything that we just brainstormed and sort of came up with, so would you like to join the conversation about that? Did he leave?
No, it says he's talking, but I don't have any audio.
sorry.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I had the microphone flipped up. So, yeah, thank you for asking. We have been developing our own guidelines. It's been a slow process, but your work has been instructional here, and I look forward to maybe getting a copy of your final thing and sharing what we've been doing as far as guidelines. I don't know if that answers your question. I would like to get with you on signage for Proprietors Cotton and maybe with Michael, the Harmony Grove Cemetery, and have one sign. That would be great. We contribute to that with you.
Right. Yeah, Michael, yeah.
It's on the back burner. I think it's important that people entering that cemetery unaware that it involves 5 different cemeteries that adjoin each other. So a map, if you will. We could take it one step further, John, and identify some of the key people in there. You and I have talked about that in the past. That might be helpful, so. When's your next, when's your next board meeting?
Long term, we'd like to do with the website, which we're also going to start working on.
Well, I'm sort of that pro, instead of just trying to make Cotton, it belongs to the city. It really is a group cemetery, and I think as a joint union, all 3 sites would benefit from us working together as opposed to individually, because I think we're all aiming for the same outcome, that our cemeteries are taken care of, people coming know about our cemeteries and enlightening everyone as much as we can. So if you want to do a joint meeting, I'd be glad to go along, because if you guys decide what the signage is made out of and things like that, I would be glad to be a part of that, and then we can bring it back and get costs and see who can do what, and maybe, fundraise if we have to. So,
It would
so
be
I'm
helpful. We have 2 new trustees on the Society for the Perpetual Care, and we're meeting at the end of March, and I think there's a lot of value in this document for us to consider as well.
Right. So as far as the rest of this committee, are you agreeable that, and it doesn't have to be me, somebody else can go to the meeting about the sign and things like that, that would like to go, or just in general, at least have the discussion with the other 2 organizations? Would that be?
Tag, you're it.
Well, I'm
No,
retired.
I don't know if it's appropriate, sorry to butt in, but we could have you come to our next trustees meeting. Michael attends frequently. That might be a good place to do this joint discussion.
Whatever, I can be there, whatever you guys decide, just let me know. But I really think since everybody in the world thinks South Cemetery belongs to the city and who don't live here and so on and so forth, I think it's worth us working together with you or having discussions together with the other two groups over there.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So, does that sound good to you, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Our next scheduled meeting is April 23rd.
Okay. At your office?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to take up any more time. I've got a couple of quick things to go over, so any other
That'll be good. That'll be productive.
questions or discussion? And do you have any other comment, John, or that you'd like to make at this time, or we can bring it back later after we meet?
While we have him on the phone, is there any update on that Steve Wilson proposal?
Which one's that?
He was here at the meeting relative to a potential cemetery on that site.
Oh, you mean down on Hanover
Down the
Street?
street of Hanover, yeah.
That's right.
No, everything got passed through the zoning board, and now it has to go back before the planning board, and I don't think there's any objection to them building there because of the RSAs that cover it, and they may put a caveat saying they would like somebody there, an archaeologist, during the excavation as far as foundations, but that's where it's left off at this point in time. But I did want to go over real quick, does everybody have to leave right at the point of 5 o'clock?
Got to leave at about 5:10, 5:15 at the latest, because I've got to be somewhere else at 5:30.
Yep, no problem. I'll be real quick.
But I'm happy to come back as needed, or just take your comments. So, like I said, I've got about 10 minutes before I need to pop
So you,
upstairs.
just to clarify, you're going to send that
Yep, I've
notice
done it.
around to all of us so we
Yep.
can read it before next time?
Yep.
Does anybody else want to add anything to the list? I think it sounds good. You know, it's a good start with how she's written it. Okay. Did I lose my thing? Not all of you know that we received a $10,000 grant from the Mahoney family in honor of their mother and father. They own Granite State Minerals down there by South Salt
Piles.
Salt Piles. So, and that's been accepted. I would have told you last meeting, but it's been accepted through the city council. And it's designated strictly for North Cemetery. We did take, I'm just going to say it, we did take down the fence, and Corin and I spoke the other day, and as soon as the weather's good, Max will start taking down, or schedule taking down the dead trees that are along that walkway and re-landscape down in there. L-chip season is coming up. I checked with Suzanne, which is the grant from the state of New Hampshire, matching grants. I would like to write a grant using that 10,000 as our matching to see if we can get another 10 to do more repair at North and Union. Both of them qualify because they're on the registries, and we are CLG certified now, so we can use both sites. The major repairs down in there is going to be headstones, and repairing headstones, and repairing and straightening them and things like that. So if we can use some money towards just putting out there, having someone come in, a group of people come in and do it, so that 3 or 4 of you and whoever else we can dig up along the way to get it, get going. So that's on the agenda. Of course, I lost my little sheet of paper that I had for this. Those were the really big ones. I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about the grant and coming up. Oh, and I did go to Piscataqua Savings. we've missed their deadline for grants, but they said definitely come back in November. However, they pay their employees up to 16 hours a year to volunteer, and the woman down there, Wanda, said that she really has been looking for places that some of the staff might be interested. So, again, with the projects coming up with the painting of the wrought iron and stuff, definitely will include them in all of that. And that, yeah. Oh, and your
So I did
flatbread.
apply for us for flatbread. I haven't heard anything back from them yet. I don't know how long the process takes usually, so maybe I'll hear before next month, but it's all put in, and I've got some memes working, should we get approved, so.
Okay.
They require you to put out memes for the preamble beforehand, so.
Yeah. No, I think, going down the line, volunteers, trying to look for the bigger grants and doing smaller things, because it is educating the community, and that was one of the things when I spoke to Ben Wheeler and the president of Piscataqua. They were fascinated. They just didn't know enough about the history of our cemeteries and things like that. So, and I think because we've been so public, things are really starting to, go that way, that people know who we are, and by educating them how important our history is. And we haven't had any bites on the 250th. No large organization is taking on the signing for July of 2026. So I'm not giving up on it, because that cemetery is just chock full of patriots from the beginning of the war. So that's it. Just wanted to, of course, I'll find my little thing.
Sue?
Yes.
Maybe then for the next meeting, although I realized I'm not going to be here for the next meeting, I did have also that guidelines for installation of additional markers.
Oh, that's right, too.
So maybe, I don't have to be the one necessarily here. I might be able to get someone else to come to the next meeting if you want to then look at this, or if people want to email me any comments, I can try and assemble them and come up with a, I could flag draft. So it's really up to you. We can figure out how you want to do that. There's no rush as far as I'm
What's
aware.
driving this? You want to put additional bronze plaques on certain locations?
Oh, not in any of these cemeteries, just the bronze plaque outside of on South Street. What, it doesn't have to be bronze, but some sort of a map, like we're going to talk.
Okay.
with my-
But this is guidance for future, also, if we need to put something else up. Is that what?
Yeah, well, I have one case of that right now. A Woodbury Langdon, who is buried in North, also is a patriot, and his family, Sue can explain it better, but somehow the family split off and some went down to South America, and some of his South American family are part of DAR, so they have reached out, and she would like to put a DAR marker by his tomb right there on the hill. So that addresses most of that. But I think if we all agree, we can read it over, and if you have any suggestions for, send them to Suzanne. I suspect that those kinds of things will slow down, but you never know. SAR is still going to do their stones for the Patriots of Fort Constitution sometime, but I don't know when. I don't know. So,
I haven't heard either.
yeah.
So,
But we have to, because the other thing is, people like putting wreaths in there, they aren't the ones taking them out. Things like that. So we should discuss it, and we don't have the obstacles of fresh flowers and all that kinds of, that you have up there, but we still, people putting flags out there all the time. We should still discuss it, again, nobody takes them down, and they get quite raggedy, and they get moved around and things like that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, I'm just saying we need to, if we're going to do it, we need to take care of them at the same time, so. Does anybody have anything else they would like to bring up real quick?
Well, this might be a good time for me to tell you all that this is my last meeting. I am moving out of state.
Oh.
And of course, I wish you all well and appreciate everything that you have done to preserve the history of this amazing city. So good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Duncan, you had something you wanted?
Yeah, just looking ahead a little bit to the future, do we have any plans upcoming for cleaning headstones or stuff like that?
Yes, I'll have a list next meeting, but we already do. D has not cleaning headstones, but painting wrought iron in Union Cemetery to sort of like the last finishing on it. So there's a Liberty Mutual Day.
What day is that?
I don't know if the day's been fixed yet.
I'm not sure either, but I'll have that total list. But it's in May. It's definitely in May, and it's a Friday, I think one of the first or second Fridays in May. But I'll definitely have that list next time. We have some volunteers coming to clean. Are going to try to line up some volunteers to go through and just do a spraying of some of the really bad heads, or going back to their mossway. Yeah, this will be a much more active in the cemeteries because Corn wants to bring in some other volunteers that may clean up the wrought iron in Union. I mean, not Union, but in Maplewood North, because there is quite a few wrought iron sections over in that area. But we'll have a list.
Okay.
Because there'll be definitely some work up in Hull Cemetery to straighten and repair, which definitely you could be a part of that, especially there's not that many headstones up in there. But yes, definitely there'll be more outdoor work. I think it worked out okay last summer because it was so hot all summer long. And some of those Saturdays that we would have done them on were incredibly hot in the morning, so,
When do you plan to start again?
As soon as possible.
yeah. So does anybody else have anything they want to say on the record before we close out the...
Motion to close the meeting.
Yes, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.